For years now, newspapers and magazines have been in a downward spiral, losing revenue, sometimes shutting down altogether. But then there's the Orange County Business Journal. For a quarter century, it's grown readership and revenue, never had a layoff, never had a money-losing year, and remains very profitable in print. Now, does the paper have a secret sauce? And hey, how are businesses doing in Orange County these days? We'll hear from the OCBJ's longtime publisher, Richard Reisman. He's next on Inside OC. Inside OC is brought to you by...
Each new community 5 Point brings to life represents a promise delivered. Great neighborhoods are more than just places to live, they are places to connect. 5 Point is a proud sponsor of public television and community programming.
Chapman University is a proud sponsor of Inside OC and community programming.
So long as they understand, they can't change it.
That's right. Hi, I'm Rick Reiff, and I'm talking with my longtime friend, colleague, the guy who used to sign my paycheck, and a fellow RR, Richard Reisman. Richard, great to have you on. And it's good. It's great after all these years to finally do a show on the OCBJ. And just so folks know, I was the editor for many years, and then I was the columnist, and now I'm the the editor at large, which is sort of like an editor emeritus. You, in all those years, 27 years now, I think it is, 28 years, you have been the publisher of the OCBJ. So let's talk about the paper. Tell us a little bit about it. I'm holding this up for folks. This is the current issue, and people will see right there. This is money. This is money.
This is Marsh McLennan Agency.
That's right. All right.
Used to be Barney and Barney.
Yeah, and they're advertising. And isn't this great?
And you can't miss it.
Right, right. You can't miss it. And so look at that, advertising.
And you can't miss it.
You know, the whole thing, and then you open it up, and here's a front page now. And of course, down here a little more advertising. We'll get into that because you know the problem with print nowadays is the money ain't coming in. And clearly, if you look through here, there's a lot of money, a lot of stories too. Here's one on a guy who you say he
reinvented the wheel.
There you go. All right.
He reinvented the wheel. It's like the ultimate thing that you can't do, and so we recognized him at our Innovator Award program because that's pretty innovative.
Right, right, and it's a thing you can put on skateboards and lots of other things.
Yeah,
okay.
And they're getting good traction.
Very good. So that'll give people an idea. You're highlighting
new innovative companies as well as the standard.
There you go, and telling the news of what's going on in business, and it comes out once a week. And it's done very well. So you know, what's the secret sauce? I mean, is it just you're covering business and therefore you're successful, or how is it that the OCBJ has been able to thrive at a time when everybody else is having so many problems? And
probably not literally everybody else, but I think we're in the very, very anomalous situation that we continue to do as well as we did in the dot-com boom year of 2000. This year we'll do at least as well as we did in 2005, which was the beginning of the decline of print media. It's been in decline in terms of ad revenues every year since 2005, and yet we're above that level in our ad revenues from 2005, and there is a secret sauce.
Which is?
The secret sauce is you need to have exclusive content that has a community of interest that advertisers want to reach. And if you do have exclusive content that advertisers want to get messages to, then you can't let them buy it digital only. Because digital media is the death to print media, not primarily from outsiders who are killing them with it, but from doing it to themselves, shooting themselves in the foot. Because if you migrate your reader from print to digital, you saw how you can't not see the advertising in print media. Well, it's very easy not to see it in digital. And so the price is 1/10 as much for digital advertising.
All right, so in a way, so why is it that virtually every print publication has gone digital?
Because most print publications don't have exclusive content. And so if there's a preference to read it digitally and you won't let them read it digitally on your publication and they can get the same information somewhere else, then they'll leave you altogether. But we're not the only one who has exclusive content, But the group of publications in Southern California, which includes LA and San Diego and San Fernando Valley Business Journals, we won't sell our weekly readers our content digital only. So we don't migrate them from a medium, print, where we can get $1 for the attention of our advertisers, to another medium, digital, where we'd only get a dime.
Right. Now, but as you just, I think, referenced, OCBJ is online, so people can get it, but they have to buy the print publication.
If you buy it in print,
it.
you get that at no extra cost. Now, and we deliver it PDF, which means you see a half-page ad on half of your screen or half of your phone. In fact, you can even click on it and go to a landing page. But we don't sell separate digital advertising. Our print advertising is visible, both in print and digital, and our subscribers, if they want to look at it digitally, may, but someone who's not a print subscriber, there's a paywall that keeps them from seeing it.
Is there, what other, besides business, all right, so business journals in general have this, I mean, any business journal anywhere in the country has that exclusive news that it can market. Do you know?
Or they should.
All right, and do other business journals around the country also have this exclusive paywall? And
they've all gone digital first. They all talk about how proudly they are for digital first. In fact, some of them promote within their paper, send out communications to their print subscribers like, let everybody in your office have access to it, not just the 6 of our print subscriptions.
And you think that's crazy?
I think it's crazy because anybody who switches from print to digital, they lose 90% of the value of that reader. And to understand the business model, which interestingly is the same business model as sports teams, we're both in the business primarily in terms of how we make our money, of selling our audience to people who want to buy things, who want to sell things to their readers or to their viewers. In baseball, you want to sell chips and beer. And some people like beer. And I'm sorry.
There's that subtle humor of yours coming in, yes, and that'll be a whole separate show. But don't we all like beer? A lot. You know, anyway, all right.
But when it comes to our publication, for the longest time, we're selling mostly business-to-business products, commercial banking, commercial real estate, attorneys, accountants, healthcare plans, but now more and more high-end housing.
How about the viewer that says, this is great, Richard, you've got the secret sauce, but the secret sauce won't last because your readers are people like you and Rick. They're getting a little older. They're still youthful, and we'll prove that in a moment. But that, you know, they're getting older. It's an older readership, and that the newer generation, the millennials, I mean, this is it, baby. They're on their phones, and you know, and they are not going to settle for a print publication. Is that going to be a problem down the line, or a challenge down the line?
I can't see the future with perfection, but I can tell you that very frequently today, I talk to my readership, the people who run things in Orange County, and by the way, it's not just the business people who read the Orange County Business Journal, people who run hospitals, universities, not-for-profits, arts organizations, the elected officials, and it's very common for me to be told, the Orange County Business Journal is the only thing I read in print.
And so you're thinking, you see, I'm thinking that will be a challenge down the line for a generation that is on the cell phone. But you know, one of the things that makes it nice now.
I'm saying a great number of people, maybe as many as half the people I have lunch with, tell me you're the only thing I read in print, which says to me that the people who prefer to read digitally, you don't have to be young to prefer to read digitally. A lot of people our age do prefer to read digitally, and we're the only thing they read in print.
All right, and I will point out, one of the things that makes it nice to read in print is these are glossy pages, so there's no ink on your fingers or stuff, and you've been doing this for a number of years now.
Yeah, it wasn't always. When you were there, we were newsprint, and everyone was newsprint.
Well, if you had listened to me, we would have been glossy a lot sooner, but eventually you saw the light.
You're right,
so
if I had been premature in the decision, we would have been a lot sooner.
Well, that is true. We had a discussion years ago. Let's share this with readers.
Right.
This is the inside story.
It is.
A long time ago, I said, Richard, you know, the Crane business publications in Chicago and New York, they're nice and glossy. Why don't we do glossy? And you said, and I'm paraphrasing, that it would not bring an extra penny to the Business Journal. In fact, we would lose money because this is so much more expensive. And my argument from the editor's standpoint was, but it's classy. So we should spend the money, we should lose a little money on this thing because it's classy. Now, you eventually came to the conclusion to do it for a very solid reason.
Well, I mean, you weren't wrong. And if we had done it earlier, it might have, it definitely would have cost a lot more. It's about twice as expensive for us, and after labor, it's our biggest single expense. So it's very expensive, and at the time that you suggested doing it, it might have cut our profits in half or something of that nature, so it would have been a huge risk. We were far more profitable when we did move to glossy, and we saw these trends of people preferring digital, so we wanted to make our print product as acceptable, as pleasurable, as good a reading experience as possible, and it opened up the doors to all kinds of advertising, and it might have done it then too, although I'm not sure our franchise was far enough along then, but now we dominate the advertising for the high-end residential real estate, and those beautiful homes wouldn't look the same. They wouldn't look anywhere like that in digital. And Lugano Diamonds, who's one of our single biggest advertisers now, because our readers are the kind of people who buy expensive gems for their loved ones, it wouldn't look the same if it were newsprint, and so it opened up the door to all kinds of advertising, perhaps more than I realized, and so perhaps you were right, but we'll never know.
Of course I was right, Richard, but you know, that's
and this is what it was like for 10 years.
You know, this is why I wanted you on, just
this
so
is
you
what
know.
It was like for 10 years, and we should actually revisit just some of the. I would say that the best 10 years of my career, the years that I'll look back at as when I really made a difference, was the years you and I collaborated. 1990 to 2000, what we did, we took a publication that was not on anybody's radar, was not influential, was barely read, and took it to a very important publication that was, at that point, moving toward parity with the daily newspaper. And we started maybe the worst business journal in the country because we took over a publication that had been converted from something that was called a business journal, but it wasn't even a weekly. And we took it from something like that to something which was in the top, probably in the top 10 of all business journals in the country, and arguably we're probably in the discussion of top 1 now.
Yeah, and viewers are seeing a picture of us. This is early 90s, I think 1992, 91, 92, and so it's over a quarter century ago. And look, we haven't changed a bit. You know?
I at least recognize that we're the same creatures as that.
Yeah, but it was fun, and it's the most fun I ever had too. And I've done a lot of things in journalism, and just taking that publication. But let's talk about that, because for people starting a business and that sort of thing, how can you tell? You've got a great idea. There's lots of people, even today, trying publications and things. They have a passion, and sometimes, I think in our case, and you can, embellish this, correct it. First of all, we knew that business journals were working in other markets.
Yes.
So why wasn't it working in Orange County?
Yes.
And we got explanations
at
the time that there's no there's no sense of community.
The South County people don't care about the North County people.
We got a million reasons that you can't do it.
From the people who hadn't succeeded before us.
Right. And I thought the most persuasive argument was lots of people have tried it and it hasn't worked. And that's usually a good indicator. If you're going to do something and you've been told lots of people have tried and failed, you should step back and say, well, why is that? But when we looked at it, we thought, they weren't doing what these other business journals were doing. They might have a good business model and they did not have a good product. They had a good product, they had no business model. So we did it. And at some point early on, the switch flipped.
Very
and people
quickly.
who would say, who are you? Are you like the Register? Are you this or that? Suddenly, it's like, well, of course you succeeded. It's Orange County. How can you not succeed in business?
You and I started in the autumn, and in the second complete year, our revenues were more than double in the year that we started late in the year. So yeah, we got traction almost immediately.
Yeah, and so let's talk about some of the things that...
and that was in the recession of the early 90s.
Right. One of the things, we have always been a little bit of a renegade in the journalism community. We did some things that more traditional publications frowned upon, and now it's commonly accepted. Let's talk about this first thing. I already showed it here on the front page. We started running an ad right at the bottom of the page.
Banner ad on the front page.
A banner ad at the bottom. Wall Street Journal was already doing it. Lots of European newspapers.
Nobody was doing that in this country. The Gannett and USA Today was the first major publication I'm aware of that did it.
Okay.
And they
in Europe they were doing it.
Yeah, Europe did it.
And we took a lot of heat for that we were selling out. How could you put advertising on the front page?
Well, you took heat for it. I didn't have a lot of people being upset with me. But you were a journalist. You were supposed to protect the integrity of the front page.
And you never mind throwing me into the fire either, you know. But I thought it was justifiable. I thought any rational person can see that one thing's news and one thing's in advertising, and that people valued the thing so much they wanted to be on the front page. So, you know, give them a little. Anyway, that worked. Well, now the point is,
you're making a good point.
Everybody does it. The LA Times has advertising wraparounds.
Oh my God, they have things that go inside the stories, and they have like images that like interfere with the stories.
So the point is, we at one time were told paywall. You shouldn't have a paywall. I think we've been proven right that you should have a paywall if you can do a paywall.
And not even make it available digital only. That's key. That's a big difference.
Right. And also advertising. Now every publication realizes to survive, there's things you do. You keep it clear. This is editorial. This is advertising. Sometimes
custom
they
content.
don't even do that. But yes, all right. But anyway, you do that. One other thing, more of a journalistic thing, which I think is still somewhat controversial, but we've done it a long time. If there's a sensitive story and a source maybe isn't commenting, and we're trying to be as accurate as possible, we will take that story and send it to the source. We'll take a draft. We'll send them a draft, or we'll give them the main points of the story.
Let's say we have no rule against it.
Right, we don't have a rule against it. And we'll say, hey, look, this is what we're going to run. Do you want to comment on it? And I think we've had wonderful success with that. We've never killed a story because somebody said, I don't want you running the story. Oftentimes they say no comment. Many times they'll actually come back and say, well,
and we've never changed the story except to make it better, because we got new information. They added a quote. They clarified something. Our reporter heard them wrong the first time, and they're saying, this is what I'm trying to say.
And maybe viewers out there will think, well, gee, that's a logical thing to do. But in the journalism community, man, I mean, you know, we'd be on a panel discussing this, and either you or I, we'd be assailed for it.
I showed you an article in the Columbia Journalism Review where a very accomplished journalist explained why his newspaper didn't do it, and what he said was, because it just isn't done. And that didn't seem good enough to me in terms of a reason for doing it. And I appreciate the fact that as an accomplished journalist, I mean, you were a Pulitzer Prize recipient at that point, and everyone in your staff pushed back because it just isn't done. And you said, well, why isn't it done? And after the end of the conversation, when the logic prevailed that so long as you don't give them the right to edit it, you retain that right, but you let them look at it for further comment or to clarify or to correct, and then you make the judgment of it will be better if we do so. There's nothing wrong with it.
It's what any author does when he's writing a book. He shows it to people, make this better. So anyway, what's interesting is that actually, I believe the publication that the comment came that just isn't done, it was a journalist with the Los Angeles Times.
But it could have been anywhere.
It could have been anywhere, but just the other day, the LA Times doing a story on their outstanding series that they've been doing on problems at USC of various sorts. They ran another one of their controversial stories, and here I thought this was great. The Times based this account on public records, university correspondence, and interviews with people familiar with the situation. The newspaper provided USC a summary of its reporting. The university corrected minor points, but otherwise did not dispute it. That's what we've done for years, and I'm glad to see that the rest of the journalism community is coming around.
You know, there's a lot of things that are just custom, and I never wanted to follow the herd. I think one of the reasons we're successful is just because everybody else sells digital only, let's look at it analytically. Let's see what makes sense. Let's not just do things because everyone else does it. And I believe we've had a common sense approach, an analytical approach, and it works. Not following the herd very often is the right way to go, because a lot of people, when they're following the herd, are not thinking it through. They just assume that if everyone else is doing it that way, there must be a compelling reason, and there often isn't.
Yeah, quickly we should talk about the ownership of the paper. I think a lot of people think you own it, people think you and I own it.
I always disabuse people of the notion.
Right, okay, and we do have
it would be nice.
Yeah, and and you referenced this group of Southern California papers that we're part of. So who owns the Orange County Business Journal?
The Orange County Business Journal is owned by a gentleman from Kansas City, Kansas. And when you and I were there, he lived there. He's since moved to Orange County. But what I want to say about this individual who likes to maintain his privacy, and we don't report about him in the paper.
And I'll say his name because, you know, let him get upset at me because he likes to keep a low profile. Larry Bridges, all right?
And he doesn't serve on boards. His wife serves on boards because he likes to keep a low profile. But what I do want to say about him is you and I would not have succeeded no matter how smart we were, no matter how we did everything right, if he didn't provide the financial backing that was necessary. Because when we first got there, you said every year has been profitable in the last 25 years, but in 1990 when we started, he needed to put some money into it to make it successful,
I remember
and
that.
he did.
Yeah, good. So enough on Larry, thank you. He'll still, and he should be upset at me, not at you, because I brought up his name. But anyway, listen, that's the truth. Okay, let's talk. Do you want to tell the Carl Karcher story, or should I tell?
No, you should tell it because
you know, this was.
You're a better storyteller.
Yeah, and it kind of it gets to, maybe it tells is something for better or worse. I think for better, about the demeanor of the newspaper. And you know, we're not a gotcha type of publication. And I can remember early on we were doing a story on the fall of the Karcher empire. Carl Karcher had gotten into serious financial troubles. He wound up.
He guaranteed a lot of real estate loans, and he was. The banks, wanted to collect against
this
them.
Great icon, a beloved figure in Orange County, Carl Karcher. I can't remember if he went into bankruptcy.
He did
or
not.
Just almost. He was on the verge of bankruptcy. And so we wrote the story.
A guy named Bill LaBelle figured out a way to keep him out of bankruptcy.
Right, who's been on this show a couple of times. And so anyway, Carl was in huge financial trouble. We have this story, and I thought, as we're showing the chart of how things are going down for the stock and all that, wouldn't it be clever if we did the little happy star that was the logo at the time, this smiling star, and make it frown?
I'm not sure the stock price was going down.
Well,
but
it was showing.
Had a graphic.
It was a graphic. Whatever.
It was not
Richard,
a happy time.
You don't have to be that exact. Okay. All right. This is TV. Okay. All right. So the
some of the journalism rubbed off on me.
Yeah. Happy star became a frowning star.
Right.
And you told me not to do that. You told me you didn't like that. And I'm saying, oh, Richard, loosen up. Everybody will get it. Come on. I said, this is the kind of, the Wall Street Journal would do this. This is exact. And we had a big argument over it.
I said, let's not have fun at someone else's expense.
Right. And at the end of the day, and I'm thinking, well, you know, this is a big company, big story and all that. And finally I said to you, you didn't tell me I couldn't do it because you wouldn't do that, but you were such a pest about it and you just kept complaining about it. I finally said, Richard, I won't run the GD frowning happy face because it means more to you than it does to me.
Yes,
right?
you did.
The very next day, I'm on this bus that's going to Notre Dame for the Notre Dame USC football game because a good friend of mine, Joe DeFranco, rest his soul, would rent a bus and take people up there. And I thought, gee, what a great way to promote the Business Journal. I've got the pile of business journals before it's even subscribers are getting it.
That's right.
I'm taking it on the bus and giving a copy to everybody, and here's the Carl story on the front page.
Yeah, good story.
Yes. And I wind up sitting next to the Monsignor, who was one of Carl Karcher's best friends.
Very close.
Very close. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this guy as he's going through the story. And when he got done, he said, you know, it's sad, but it was a really good story. It was
fair.
And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if I had run that frowning face, and now I'm sitting next to this Monsignor for, you know, an hour up to LA.
He would have said another smart-ass journalist.
And I think that when I came back, I think I gave you a hug that Monday morning.
Did,
but it was an interesting story. Talk about, why don't you talk a little bit about this one, the Iraq War, which was kind of outside of our purview, 2003. And the then editor, Mike Lister, and myself co-wrote an editorial against the Iraq War. Going in.
You argued that, unlike what all the media was saying, which was that Saddam's bluster, that he had such a strong military force, was going to really give us a run for the money, you said nonsense to that. You'll be an easy victory, but you'll say it will be a terrible victory because the consequences after we win will be years and years of trouble for our country and trouble for the world. And so you said on the merits that we shouldn't enter the war because it was the wrong thing to do for our national interest. It was the wrong thing to do for the country. And so I signed off on it. I said, you and Mike feel strongly about it, and I agree. So let's take the position. And interestingly, the Orange County Register, so Orange County, which back then, that's back before it became a blue place. Yeah. Back then, all the congressional seats were held by Republicans, and yet two publications here, both editorialized against it. And you were very specific in the editorial of what the consequences would be, and sadly, you were prescient.
Thank you. And OC Weekly wound up doing a
yeah.
story on it, like man bites dog,
yeah.
you know.
Well, they had a picture of you and Mike.
The business publication came out, and we did get a few folks who
they had a picture with a caption with you and Mike's picture. We don't want your stinking war.
Yeah, right. And there were a few readers who were upset. A few canceled their subscriptions over it, which I think is the only time that's happened. But anyway, Richard, we're out of time. Thank you so much. I'm glad you came on to tell a story. Now let's talk. I want to pick your brain on what lies ahead for Orange County business, okay? And so we'll have viewers, they can watch that on the open mic segment coming right up. So that's it for now. Thanks again to my guest and fellow RR, Richard Reisman. You can watch this show and past shows at pbssocal.org or rickreif.com. You can also catch our shows and our post-show open mic chatter on YouTube. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again on Inside OC. Inside OC is brought to you by...
Each new community 5 Point brings to life represents a promise delivered. Great neighborhoods are more than just places to live, they are places to connect. 5 Point is a proud sponsor of public television and community programming.
All your life, people talk about what's best for you. But to most people, it's just that. Talk. Unless you're with Memorial Care, a healthcare system devoted to one important thing: what's best for you.